States. It's Mark from the United States.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Mark from the States. How are we doing today? I am doing fantastic. Hopefully you are as well. Thank you so much for coming. Hey, we have an anniversary here coming up, D-Day. I was going to try to do a little bit more D-Day type video content. This one was requested. It's Forces News. Please love the channel. I've reached out to them, haven't heard back from them. Hopefully they get back to me. They're part of a bigger deal, so I don't know if they ever will. But go support them. Links to the channel and to this video will be in the description. This is the D-Day Secrets, the genius innovations that help secure Allied victory. Now, we've done videos. Hobart's Funnies, right? I think is one of them. Just all the different inventions. I don't know if this is where this is going to go. If it's going to just be another video on the same things we've seen, I don't know. Maybe we're going to learn something new today. I'm anticipating I will. But if it's not something you that you will learn, maybe you'll just enjoy. Because, you know, a lot of the stuff you guys already know, but I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me on this couch. You help me learn. You guys are amazing. I love all of you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Love our channel. I do. I really do. So come, sit with me. Let's watch Genius Innovations Allied Victory. D-Day Secrets. Let's do it.
The 6th of June 1944, D-Day. Operation Overlord, the Allies' code name for the invasion of Normandy, begins.
Okay.
It was years in the planning and saw all sorts of innovations developed to enable tens of thousands of men and machines make it across the Channel. Well, look at the technology that developed, allowing the Allies not just success in Normandy, but victory in the entire war. So here's a question for you. How did London buses
Cooper.
and sand ensure that the Allies were successful on D-Day? The answer involves this, the X-Craft midget submarine. 20 were built during 1943 and 44. 51 feet long, just 5.5 feet diameter. It's January 1944, and one of these X-Craft is dispatched to Normandy. Under the cover of the long winter darkness, they surface and 2 crew members get out. They swim to shore. When they get there, they take sand samples. Why? Well, quite simply, so they can take it back to England.
See if they can
and have the scientists assess whether it's firm enough to be used by tanks.
Yeah. Wow.
This is what the divers would have worn to get to the beaches to collect that sand. One of the first ever dry suits. This is where the London bus park comes into it. This is a 42 horsepower Gardner diesel engine as used on contemporary London buses. Fair enough on a bus, but imagine it being, obviously with this gap closed, here, right in your working space, only feet away. Noise, the smell of it, the heat of it, would have been horrible.
Yeah, that would not be good.
It's a very special feeling, and a strange feeling, being inside this X-Craft.
It's such claustrophobia. You obviously, if you do have bouts of that, you're not taking on this career path as a submariner. But to be in such a smaller one, having that loud noise, the smell would just make me so nauseous, the fumes. I would not last very long in one of these for sure, but that's crazy to think. I mean, once he was saying taking sand samples, it dawned on me, to see if the equipment can actually roll off onto it without getting stuck. I imagine there's probably a ton of these kind of stories that are so mundane when you think on the surface, but the importance is so great. And, without the knowledge of whether you can or can't do it, is all playing in the part of whether this thing's going to work, this thing being the operation. Wild.
Special because you realise what they achieved in these during the Second World War, but also at the same time you realise just how small it is. People with claustrophobia don't even think about it.
Yep. Forest.
This woodland and scores of others like it along the south coast would have been absolutely crammed with tents. Tens of thousands of troops here biding their time for the invasion. The canopy of the forest providing them with cover from any German reconnaissance planes.
It was nice weather then. We were on the canvas. We knew it was coming. We knew we were destined to go because we were isolated from the rest of the world. You could only communicate with the rest of the world by phone or by letter. Phone was cut off. Letters had to go through the officers to censor. We were given forms saying where our position was. We were going to land on a beach called Jig, which was part of Gold Beach. But otherwise, it was just a nice summer's day, and we just sat around.
So the troops were safe under canvas, but it was a difficult time for the people of the south coast. A 10-mile exclusion zone was put in place from the sea back, all the way from Land's End to the Wash. So if you lived somewhere like Wickham here, you couldn't leave. And if you wanted to come to the area, you simply couldn't.
Crazy times.
This is the old West Meon railway station on the disused Meon Valley Railway between Alton and Fareham in Hampshire. Now part of it's a cycle track, and I'm on my way to Droxford, a place with a very special connection to D-Day. This has become known as Droxford's secret siding. It played a small but unique part in the story of D-Day. It was here that on the 2nd of June, 2 carriages were brought along and used by Prime Minister Winston Churchill to have important discussions with people like General Eisenhower. And Churchill actually spent the night before D-Day here in a railway carriage in Droxford.
Wow. In the carriage itself. Interesting.
This is the beach at Hayling Island, and this beach, along with others at places like Littlehampton further up the coast, Bracklesham Bay, have their own part to play in the D-Day story, an important part at that. The Allies used these beaches as their final test before they went to Normandy. You can see why. Huge expanse of shingle and surf, great location to test the skills and drills of getting mass numbers of men and equipment ashore. The River Hamble in Hampshire, now a haven for wildlife and sailors. But in June 1944, like many rivers and harbours the length of the south coast, it was crammed with landing craft and ships of all description. The whole area would have been a hive of activity with different units embarking. This, though, is Warsash and a place called the Rising Sun Jetty. And here, on the 5th of June 1944, 3,000 commandos came down the road and got on their landing craft.
That must have been.
Leading them was Brigadier Lord Lovat. They had the job of landing and quickly making their way to Pegasus Bridge, which had been captured by glider teams earlier that night. The plan worked. The commandos made it to Pegasus Bridge. And upon meeting the airborne defenders, Lord Lovat famously apologised for being 2.5 minutes late. Or did he? Historians now disagree on the lateness of the commandos. Some say they were over an hour late. But whatever the truth, the bridge was relieved.
They got there. It's the important thing.
Famous images of troops coming ashore on D-Day. But how do they get tanks and heavy armour, and lots of it, across to Normandy? The answer is this, the landing craft tank, 800 of which were built for the Normandy landings.
Landing craft tank.
10 tanks could be fitted on each landing craft tank, 2 alongside each other, all the way to the front. It would have been really tight here with all the tanks on board, and for that reason, the crews stayed with their tanks for the entire trip across the English Channel, be it a Sherman like this one, or indeed a Churchill tank.
I love it. It's so cool.
The landing craft tank is over 170 feet long, but its sheer size doesn't change the basic parameters and idea of a landing craft. It's flat bottom so it can get into the beach, but that means it pitches and rolls and wallows. Seasickness was pretty much inevitable.
Yeah. Not good.
After the rigours of the journey, the Normandy beaches awaited. The ramp would go down, the tanks would come out and face whatever the Germans could throw at them. This is the only landing craft tank left in the world. It stands as a monument to all those who made the journey to France. It also gives us the merest hint of what it would have been like.
It's the last one, huh? Darn. The whole anticipation of the, I know, maybe not so much on here because you're in your tank when that thing goes down. So you do have the protection there, but then again, you're like, are we going to get stuck? Better hope we don't get stuck. But being on those landing crafts and just piling out when that ramp goes down, that opening scene from Saving Private Ryan is so brutal. And, you know, you hear that from a lot of people who were there, that that's pretty accurate in its depiction. It's just the ride over, you're just sick and seasick and scared, and it's just all these feelings that I've never felt before. I've been seasick, I've been scared, but nothing to that degree of what you're going to face, the anticipation of, or dread of what you're going to see when those ramps go down. And hopefully I'll never ever have to, or my children will ever have to, experience those feelings and emotions that those men and women felt on that day. Just incredible. God bless them, for sure. Just every time I watch these like D-Day type stories, it just makes me so grateful for these men and the women and their families even, who are at home just wondering what has happened to them. And you know, I do for others in other conflicts as well, but just this one in particular always seems to really and you know, a lot has to do that we have a lot of footage of it. You know, cameras were a big thing at the time, and you know, more so than say World War One. We do have footage, of course, of World War One. I'm not disregarding that, but you know, with so much footage of World War Two, that's I guess I'm always gonna harken back to this time. But it's just incredible, the bravery of all that were involved is it's just remarkable. And that covered, you know, that goes for World War One, any conflict, Vietnam, Korea, the whole bit. It's just the mindset you have to put yourself in. It's just and how it's probably different for each individual, how they're able to go forward to take that first step. It's just remarkable. And I've never had to be in that position. And thank God and pray to God that I'll never have to, or hopefully my children would never have to. Wild.
The Normandy landings were a vital first step in freeing Europe. But then what? How do you keep the momentum up and push into Germany? Well, the answer is you need to keep the supplies coming through in vast quantities. But how, when many of the harbours of France would have been destroyed?
Mulberry.
The answer was simple, but practically very difficult. Build your own harbours.
Yep. Pretty ingenious here.
And that's just what they did. Collapsible, prefabricated harbours, codenamed Mulberry. 2 harbours were set up in France and landed 2.5 million men, 500,000 vehicles and 4 million tonnes of supplies in 10 months after D-Day.
Crazy.
We're at Langstone Harbour next to Hayling Island in Hampshire to see a remnant of this amazing feat.
It's still there, huh? Wow.
These are known as the Phoenix Breakwaters. They came in 6 sizes up to 6,000 tonnes and were built by contractors right around the UK. They were then brought south and sunk at Pagham and at Dungeness, keeping them safe from prying eyes. Resurrection then came. They were raised, hence the name Phoenix, and taken by 2 tugs over to Normandy. Sadly, this example didn't ever make it out of Langstone Harbour.
Oh. Interesting, okay.
It's amazing getting this close. You really do see how it was a ready-made harbour, even down to the metal bollards built in.
Mm. Shanklin.
This is Shanklin Chine on the southern coast of the Isle of Wight, a beautiful gorge running down towards the sea, and apparently the island's oldest tourist attraction. But why am I here? What's it got to do with the Normandy landings of 1944?
Gonna go back here, I wanna see. So they got the US flag, Union flag, Canada, France. I'm not sure what that flag is right there in the middle. I can't really see it. Maybe it's a combined, some sort of flag. It doesn't look familiar to me. Interesting. Beautiful little area though. Look at that. You can see why it's popular.
This pipe is what's known as Pluto, and there's about 60 yards of it here at the Chine. Pluto stands for Pipeline Under the Ocean, and historians say this is one of the most significant technological achievements of the entire Second World War. Here's why. This amazing archive footage shows the Pluto pipeline being laid at sea. There are in fact several pipelines, but all use this same technique. Steel pipe wound onto a 40 by 60 foot floating drum called the conundrum, and unwound as it crossed the channel, the pipe sinking to the bottom. The pipe itself was 2 inches in diameter. The flexible steel covered by successive layers of tar, galvanized steel wires and resin impregnated paper. This is the pumping station for the line from Sandown on the Isle of Wight. And as you can see, not all that much has changed. Pluto delivered 180 million gallons of fuel to the Allies, but it was a fairly short-lived affair, and by the end of August 1944, its job was done and the pipeline stopped sending oil. Nonetheless, it had delivered 8% of the fuel used by the Allies during that period.
Incredible. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of that. That's new to me. I just assumed they brought barrels, for fuel that came over. I don't know if I've heard of this pipeline. That's incredible. That's great. Ingenious. The conundrum. That's great. And that's the end of this video. Please go support Forces News. It's important that you do so. Cooper, the gentleman Tim, has the last name Cooper. Love it. You know, when we named our son Cooper, this is a little tangent here, a little non-relevant story, but Jennifer, my wife, she was pregnant, and we were out to dinner, and she was about 8.5 months, so we're getting ready, and we still hadn't come up with a name for him yet, and we're just, bouncing names off just to see what one would stick, and for whatever reason, you have to go through, and a lot of you know this already. You have to go through. It's like, well, what are they going to be called in school? And are they going to be T's? So you got to have a good sounding name, but it's also got to be a name that mean, because kids are ruthless. Aren't going to be able to tease them. At least we're thinking of that, and that's how Cooper came about. It just was like, loved the name Cooper. I think it was from one of the TV shows Jennifer watched, of course, but at least that's what she associated it to, because I'm the one who blurted it out. Mom, what about Cooper? And then, of course, we included my father's first name as his middle name, Cooper John, and it just had a good sound to it. So every time I see the name Cooper, it automatically takes me back to that moment in time when we're at dinner with Cooper waiting to enter the world. It always takes me back to that, and I just, you guys are my family, so I'm going to share that with you. I just love it. Anyway, back to the video. The pipeline was something certainly new. Of course, there's other little tidbits. It was a good video. I enjoyed it. They didn't go into any of the stuff that we'd already seen before, these crazy inventions by Hobart and all that stuff. I enjoyed this. This is something different. Some of it I've heard of course, like Mulberry Harbors and some of the other things, but like I said, the pipe and for the gas, petrol, sorry, and I wasn't too familiar with the landing tank craft that carried all the tanks over. Maybe I have, I'm not too sure, but I learned something new today. Hopefully you at least saw something new today. And if you learned something as well, perfect. I hope everybody's happy, healthy, and safe. Thanks so much for coming. More D-Day content. If you have some videos that you think would be great and beneficial for us to learn from, please send them my way. Email in the description or put it in the comments. Links are great if you can get one. And of course, we'll do some more patriotic music and just I think there was a Mountbatten festival, or music festival. I'd like to check some of those out, so I'll be looking at that as well. Have a great day, everyone. We will see you tomorrow, maybe, hopefully. Have a good one. All right, bye.
Mark from the States, Mark from the States, it's Mark, and he's from